Alright, so in this video, we're going to learn something. Yes, Mr. 4K teacher is going to explain something to you. Okay? And what I'm going to explain to you, hopefully you guys will be paying attention to this. Remember, the class, it's in session. So let's learn about the HDMI cables. Alright. First thing you need to understand about the HDMI cables is the chipset that's installed onto a device. There's various different HDMI chipsets. You got 1.4, which is a standard HDMI first generation, which is right here, and it only supports 10.2 gigabits per second. All right, that was like the first generation high-speed media. I'm sure you guys know high definition media interface. I'm sorry, high definition media interface. That's what the HDMI stands for. When they first announced it, it was called high definition media interface, and it was used for high definition televisions. When they first came on board with Blu-rays and all of that stuff in 2009, okay, they were called high definition media interface. And this is what we were using with our very first high definition media interface televisions, 1080p televisions, 1.4, because that's all they needed was 10.2 gigabits per second to achieve high definition 1080p, 1920 by 1080p. All right, so this is the first one, 1.4. Now, a lot of people still use this. And there's a lot of devices that still use this 1.4 because we haven't really jumped into. We're almost there with 4K television, but we haven't completely made it standard. Okay, so there's still a bunch of devices using this, like your old 4K. Your old Blu-ray players. If you have an old Blu-ray player, you will still have this 1.4. Okay, so now that you understand, HDMI stands for High Definition Media Interface. Because back in the days, we were using S-video cable, super video cable, and that was like the highest source of cable you can get to give us the best possible picture quality, and then composite cables before that, okay? So High Definition Media Interface 1.4 was the first HDMI chipset with 1080p, okay? And 720p, 1080p, 1080i interlace, I'm sorry. It supported three different resolutions, 720p, 1080p, and 1080i interlace, okay? Now, after a while, a few years has passed, we bump into 4K. Now 4K, it's a higher resolution. It's 3840 by 2160, 8.3 million pixels. Now we need more than just 10.2 gigabits per second. Now we need 18 gigabits per second to render that resolution and high dynamic range, static metadata. So what did we do? We jump into 2.0. High definition media interface. Now, 2.0 cable, when you buy it, it's not going to say HDMI 2.0, okay? They're not advertising these cables as HDMI 2.0. They advertise these cables as high-speed HDMI cable, okay? So every 4K player, even your console that's 4K, PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox One X, comes in with high-speed cable. High-speed cables are 4K cables, and that's how they're advertising them. All right, and that's why it's going to say high speed. So high-speed cables are HDMI 2.0 cables. They're right here, 18 gigabits. And 2.0 chipsets cannot go any higher than 18 gigabits per second. They're always going to stay and vary between 18 and 10. There's always going to be there, depending on what type of high-speed cable you got. If you got like a very crappy high-speed 2.0 cable, it might vary between 18 to 17, 16. It might drop down a few gigabits. All right, depends on what type of cable you got and how long that cable is. Because remember, the longer the cable is, and if it has to go through a receiver and many different shortcuts, then you might lose a little bit of that transfer data. It might drop down between 18 gigabits per second all the way to 15 or 14 or 13 or 16. Okay? But usually drops down to maybe 3, like 16. It never goes down below 16, all right? If it's like a really crappy cable. So remember, this is what we are currently using on all of our 10-bit televisions, 4K televisions, HDR, Dolby Vision, 4K televisions, our 4K projectors. This is what we are all currently using. It's this right here, 2.0. But the cables are advertised as high speed. Okay? They're advertised as high speed. They're not advertised as HDMI 2.0. All right, so now let's jump into 2.1. 2.1, this is future-proof. This is for the future chipsets that they are going to support 2.1 chipsets, HDMI outputs and inputs. Okay? And the reason it's higher than 18, it's 48 gigabits per second, because the future televisions will have 12-bit color. All right, they're going to go a higher color output. 12-bit probably will go beyond YUV 422, will probably go up to YUV 444. And I think that's where it's going to stay, because it's going to be going to a 12-bit 8 million pixel, 8K resolution. So you're going to have a 12-bit televisions with 8K resolution. That 8K resolution with the new HDR format for 12-bit, and 12-bit televisions are coming. Probably by 2020, 2021, they're coming. They will need 48 gigabits per second to support 12-bit panel with 8K resolution and the new HDR formats, Dolby Vision, Hybrid Gamma, etc., Technicolor, you name it. Okay? HDR Plus, all of them will need this 48 gigabits per second. Now, the question everybody wants to ask, the reason I had to go through this 8 minutes of explaining some history on high definition media interface cables is so that you guys understand how these cables are differentiated between each other. Now that you know the difference between this one, and this one. Now we're not here yet because they haven't released 8K, 12-bit, new HDR format television. That's coming down the pipeline, and it's coming. So we're not there yet. So we cannot take full advantage of this because they're not making televisions that can support this. We're still here with the 18 gigabits per second. The only reason I recommend Belkin HDMI 2.1 cable, it's so that you can get the best possible fast readout of this 18 gigabits. Meaning when you plug in that HDMI 2.1 Belkin cable, this 18 gigabits, it's not going to drop a beat. It's going to stay like this non-stop because it's already unlocked and ready for a higher bandwidth. If you get a high-speed cable that's a so-so high-speed cable, it might vary and it might drop down between 18 to 16 gigabits per second. So this is why I recommend Belkin HDMI 2.1 cable. So you can have that constant bit rate on your 4K movies, on your 4K HDR Blu-ray movies. All right? Now, let's get back to something that really kind of pissed me off. And this is coming from somebody that left me a comment. I'm not going to even mention this person's name. It was just stupid. He left me a comment saying that if HDMI 2.1 cable existed, then everyone would be reviewing it. And right there, I got really upset. I was like, I can't believe this guy is really this dumb. But then I realized, yes, there are dumb people out there. It's mainly because of their own fault. They don't do their research. They don't go to Google to research because they're too lazy to research. They just want to memorize. They don't want to learn. So I have to do my research here so that way you don't have to memorize anymore. You can learn something. So hopefully you learned something from this video. He said that the HDMI 2.1 Belkin cable doesn't exist. All right. Now I showed you this diagram here. Okay. And I told you that HDMI 2.0, it's called high speed. So means it's only can support 2.0. If you buy a high speed only cable and it says high speed, guess what? Listen carefully. It can only support 2.0. It's not future proof for 2.1. If you buy a cable that says ultra high speed cable that supports 48 gigabits per second, then you are set future proof for the future. All right? Remember, orange here, it's ultra high speed. Here it's high speed. And this is just the standard high definition media interface, first generation. So what do we got? First generation, HDMI. Second generation, 4K HDMI, high speed. And here we got the third generation, ultra high speed. So let's go back to the Belkin website here. Now that you learn about this basics, let's go back to the Belkin cable. Oh, what is this? I'll give you a minute. What does it say there? I even highlighted it for you. It says Belkin Ultra high speed 4K HDMI cable. But why do they call it Ultra? Maybe because it's future proof for 2.1 HDMI, and it is 2.1 HDMI cable. Okay? Now let's go over here. What does it says here? Bandwidth up to 48 gigabits per second. All right, take a time, get your brain cells together. Maybe you'll figure this out. And what does it says here? 48 gigabits per second, 2.1. You know what's really sad about this? It's sad that there's individuals out there. There's individuals out there that don't actually do any research. They don't learn anything. All they do is they memorize. They go through all these other crappy bullshit websites, crappy YouTube channels. They just want to do a clickbait, make money. Okay? And when you go to those types of YouTube channels, small channels, they just want to spit bullshit and put a clickbait so they can go ahead and profit money. You will not learn anything because they're not going to teach you anything. They just want you to share, click, and watch their bullshit videos. Here, I'm teaching you something so that you have basic understanding of what the HDMI is and how they are differential between each other. But you could have done this too. You know what? This is what's so sad. Instead of you typing on that keyboard and wasting my time with some BS bullshit, you could have actually done the same thing and research. Okay? And research instead of memorizing. Now you know that ultra high speed, it's measured by 48 gigabits, meaning it's 2.1 ready. And this here, that doesn't say ultra high speed, it says high speed, it's measured in 18 gigabits per second. So now that you know the difference now between these cables. So when you see a cable that says high speed, you automatically know it's 2.0. When you see a cable that says ultra high speed, you automatically know it's 48 gigabits per second. But you could have learned this too if you had done your research instead of typing nonsense on my video and wasting my time. And no, I didn't make this video just for you. I made this video for a lot of people out there who are misled and who didn't bother learning and researching instead of just blindly memorizing some shit. You know the difference between me and other YouTubers are? I actually read books. I research. I study. I'm interested to know how this works. How does this work? I want to know. I want to know. How do I find out how something works? Is by doing a research. Correct research. I don't memorize. I research. So yes, if you want to learn what YUV 420 or 422 means and why they measure it in color output of bits, maybe you would understand why they call it YUV 420 and 422. Because YUV 420 and 422 can only support 10-bit. All right? They're all, when you see YUV, you should know automatically it's a 10-bit ready. Meaning your television supports 10-bit. If you see sRGB or just RGB, it means your television only supports 8-bit. But if you have done your research, if you had studied the basics, you would have known this. And that's what I've been trying to do on this channel for 2 years. I don't talk out of my ass. Every product that I reviewed, everything that I showed you guys, I own that product. I own that television. I own that equipment. And I give you my thoughts and experience on that. This is a major, major fundamental difference between someone who just talks out of their ass, makes fun of other people, and just act a fool. And then there's a huge difference between someone who actually is legit, owns the products, and gives you the correct information. It's a huge, huge beneficial difference. So you're welcome. So, to answer your question, Mr. which name I'm not going to mention here, yes, Belkin HDMI 2.1 cable is HDMI 2.1. And yes, when they start rolling out 2.1 players with 2.1 HDMI chipsets on TVs, you will be ready to go with this cable. So yes, they are 2.1. They don't advertise them as 2.1. They advertise them as ultra high speed. Just like 2.0, it's not advertised as 2.0 cable. It's advertised as high speed cable. You're not going to find a cable that says 2.0. You're going to find a cable that only says high speed or ultra high speed. That's it. And the standard HDMI, which I doubt anybody's selling it anymore, would only say HDMI. For a higher resolution, which is a 4K, you will get high-speed cables. That's what you're going to find. It's high-speed cables. HDMI high-speed cables. For the future proof, you're going to find ultra high-speed cables. And it even says right here, it says right here, the ultra high-speed HDMI cable from Belkin, it's prepared for Dolby Vision and more. Future-proof your home entertainment with a cable that's ready for the next generation of audio and video. It clearly says it here, future ready. But I digress. What do I know, right? What do I know? So there you have it. Hopefully you guys have learned something here. Very important on this video. And please don't waste my time on a comment section with stupid questions. If you ask me a stupid question, I'm just going to remove you and block you. You know, especially when this guy wasn't even asking me a question. He was telling me that I'm wrong. Like he was already telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about. That's even worse. That's you being hypocrite. 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 Gullible hypocrite. That's what you are. You're being a hypocrite by saying that. All right? You are the hypocrite for not doing your research before you start typing on that keyboard with stupid nonsense. You know what he actually said to me? He said to me, if Belkin was HDMI 2.1 cable, everyone would do a review on it. And I replied to him, I said, well, everyone did do a review on it. I don't know under which rock did you live for all this time, but everyone did do a review on it. Techno Dad did a review on it. I did a review on it. Mr. Struders did a review on it. A bunch of freaking people did a review on it. And they all said the same thing. It's a future proof, but right now we cannot take advantage of it because there's no 2.1 chipsets ready. But however, it will give you the best possible 4K HDR currently right now for the 2.0 HDMI chipsets. But you missed all that. You didn't see all that. What you saw is my channel and then some clowns out there telling you that I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Yeah, I have 22,000 plus subscribers. I just pulled out of my ass. I have over 2.6 thousand videos that I just pulled out of my ass without any hard work. I fucking do my hard work, motherfucker. I work hard on these videos. And everything that I own, I actually tell you exactly what's inside, the specs, and then I give you my opinions on that. I don't talk out of my ass. I have credibility. Just like I did credibility here on this video for 22 minutes educating your ass. This video is over. Capiche? Done. Over. Hopefully you learned something from this.